Okay, here we go, Larry. Good morning. I'm Michele Kubiak with Keller Williams Realty in Las Vegas, and I'm here today with uh, Larry Perna of Bridge Home Inspections. I met Larry when he was doing an inspection on one of my listings several years ago, and I started using him mainly because I liked the job they did on the listing that I met them at, and also they use a infrared device, and they were the only ones at that time, and I think probably still right now, that don't charge for the infrared device. It's an extra fee on different companies, and that was one of the big reasons, because like Larry can tell you about the infrared device and what he does, and his company can be reached at 702-722-2222. So Larry, tell us what's going on out in your inspection world right now, maybe on infrared device and whatever you think is helpful.
Sure. I didn't remember that that's how you met us.
Yeah.
Was that one of your listings? We've actually gotten a lot of business that way. And I always take the time to demonstrate the infrared camera, how sensitive it is. I don't have one handy or else I'd show you, but you can point it at your arm and you can see your, blood vessels in there, and you can touch the wall with one finger and see exactly where that dot is. And we use it mostly to find moisture. And we use it under every drain, every supply line, around the toilets, and then the ceilings underneath the showers. I would guess 2 or 3 times a month we find a leaky shower or tub on the second floor. And it's usually pretty small. Sometimes it's disastrously big, but usually it's pretty small and detectable with the infrared only, because it doesn't do enough damage typically to see a big bubble, or it takes lots and lots of consecutive showers before it drips through enough to see it. And so it's been a lifesaver for me. Every one of my guys has got one now. And at first it was me because they were just very expensive, and then I would let the guys use it and train on it. And then they started coming out with these smaller ones that are less expensive, just like every technology, it gets less expensive and smaller and easier to use. And so now you've got one that will click onto the bottom of your smartphone. They're just amazing, and they're less than $500. So yeah, and I started with this big old giant thing, and I still have that actually because I love using that big one because it has a nice big screen, and but yeah, it's really saved our butt a couple times when, unbeknownst to everybody, including the sellers, you didn't know that, hey, you got a tub upstairs that's leaking. They never used it. They always use the shower, and it's a big fancy bathroom, and the one time you use the tub and you fill it up and then you run the jets and then you drain it, suddenly you got a problem. So this happens occasionally where, like, oh no, it was fine. We used it last Christmas. I'm like, yeah, well, that was, 8 months ago or whatever. Things dry out.
Right.
So you see that a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we see that a lot.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember this one or not. 3 years ago, I had a client that bought a home over in Henderson and Seven Hills, and that device was used, and it just is exactly what you just said. Is they found moisture coming from an upstairs bathroom, and it ended up being mold. And the way I write my contracts now is that I leave it to where they can get a home inspection and a mold inspection in case a situation like that arises. And so that saved them. And it was that device that we did first, because a lot of times after that, they didn't need to have a mold inspection. This case they did. And then the seller did a complete remediation and everybody was happy. So I am like really glad that you guys offer that service, and it has helped me and my clients greatly.
Yeah, it's been a lifesaver, and we use it in conjunction with a moisture meter. So sometimes you'll see a blue spot and you're not sure if it's wet or if it's just cold, because the infrared camera can't tell. It can only see temperatures. So then if you hit it with the moisture meter, then you can confirm with one more tool that yes, it's probably wet or not wet. Sometimes it's an air conditioning duct above the ceiling that's opened a little bit, and it's blowing cold air on the drywall and making it cold and making it appear blue on our screen. So, you know, there is some training that goes along with it. It's great to have, great to use. I would recommend, if you don't use bridge home inspections, that you, whoever you do use, ask them to do an infrared scan of all the plumbing fixtures, and underneath, if it's a two-story house, underneath any of the plumbing fixtures, you'll, you know, likely save yourself a lot of trouble.
Yeah. What else do you see that's common on home inspections before COVID and now during COVID-19?
Well, I mean, the most drastic thing we saw was a sharp decline in number of inspections in March. So our inspections were cut in half. Probably the number of homes sold, I don't really keep track of those stats, but I know you guys do, we're probably way down. And then in April, it was a little better. And then in May was actually pretty good. And then in June, we did more home inspections than we've ever done in 1 month. We did 490 something.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, we got super busy.
Yeah. So I figured, I mean, we're mostly a reflection of what you guys are doing. So if you guys are super busy writing contracts, then we get super busy. And it was just, we could barely keep up. We have 10 guys and they were hustling. Everybody was working hard and doing 2 or 3 a day, and we got it done. But I think July will be comparable. I don't know if it's going to be, you know, 500, but it's pretty busy. We've got, you know, probably 25 a day on the books right now. So it's, yeah, it's been busy, and I hope it stays busy. I'm glad that real estate is an essential business. I'm glad that we can keep selling houses and people can keep buying houses. I know that's not true in every state, but I'm very glad that that is true here. And we do wear masks and gloves, and we prefer that nobody be at the house. Sometimes it's unusual, but sometimes the buyer shows up with the husband and the kids and the aunt and the uncle and the contractor friend, and then the neighbors show up, and they're like, you know, I just tell my inspectors to just, you know, try to do the best you can. And if you can ask them to give you some space and give them, you know, but the best way is if it's, you know, vacant, and then the buyers can show up at the end, kind of get a walkthrough and a debriefing of what was found. Still, buyers are showing up probably to about 40% of the home inspections, which is fine with us.
Yeah.
But we like to not have the whole entourage, you know, and then the sellers are there sometimes with their kids and 3 or 4 dogs, and it can get pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I always have my clients come towards the end, and if they can't, I go towards the end because I like to hear and see what it is, so I have a better understanding of that. And same with the buyers. And yeah, that house I was telling you about with the mold, and then with the infrared device, I forgot to mention that same house had multiple roof tiles missing, and it was at a time, I don't know if you remember 3 years ago when we had that like massive wind and you couldn't get an appointment with a roofing company for like 3 weeks. They were backed up.
What'd you guys do?
So we ended up, you know, finding somebody. Of course, I asked everybody I could think of, and so that worked out. But I do remember that wind.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I bet.
I just did a pre-listing inspection on a 5,400 square foot house, custom home, and the roof was in pretty good shape, but there was like 16 tiles that had fallen off on the edges, 1 or 2 broken ones in the middle. Didn't have any leaks or anything, but there was tree debris and tree branches touching the roof. And so this seller is going to take care of all to the buyer's inspection. And I like to push pre-listing inspections on expensive homes because, I mean, often they're big and there's a lot of ground to cover, and there's going to be a list.
Right.
Why not? Yeah. Why not? Yeah. Don't be surprised. You know, don't get blindsided by the buyer's inspection. We also found a drippy pipe on his water heater, one of the two water heaters. And so he can take care of these things. And so now when the new home inspection gets done in a month or two, or whenever they find a buyer, they're going to have a much smaller list of things to look at.
That's a great idea. I like that, the pre-listing inspection.
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that mostly. You know who mostly does this is real estate agents. Real estate agents or people who have real estate agents that they listen to, and it is usually bigger houses. Let's say they were built, not one that's 2 or 3 years old, but built in the 90s, a custom home especially. Maybe they've been, there's some deferred maintenance there. But again, these are large houses. The kids have moved out. They never go into these 3 other bedrooms anymore,
Yeah.
So it's like, remember in 2008, 2009, 2010, 11, there was tons and tons of foreclosures. We had tons of vacant houses. And so as home inspectors, we were going into these houses, and in lots of them, the shower valves were stuck. They weren't working. So you turn on the hot water, maybe it runs for a few seconds, or maybe it doesn't. And then it clogs up. And so that was just a phenomena that we ran into very often because of that particular set of circumstances of vacant houses. And I think the same situation is here with, you have a lot of homes that were built in the 90s. The way I look at Vegas is we have homes built in the 50s, not too many.
Mm-hmm.
We have homes built in the 60s, a little bit more, 70s, a little bit more, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But most of the homes in Vegas have been built in the last 10 years. Because 10 years ago, our population was much smaller. And so a lot of the homes that are older now, we didn't consider old 10 years ago. A home built in the 90s wasn't old, really. If it was built in 94 and then, 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't considered old. But now they got some age on them. They should be inspected.
Well, do you get to where you're inspecting a lot of brand new homes?
Every week we do a couple of brand new homes. So we're one of the few companies that carries the higher level of insurance that the builders require. So we have a couple of them on speed dial, that they know exactly who we are. I think Pardee, they know us very well. And it was an interesting relationship over the years because 4 or 5 years ago, they were very reluctant to have a third-party inspector there. Quite often, they'll try to talk their buyers out of doing it.
Yeah.
But most buyers who have their own agent will listen to their agent and they'll get one done anyhow. So a new home, when it's being built, it's a certain crew that's building it, certain crews, let's say. And a home that's been sold and signed off to the buyer has a different set of people that are going to fix it. Like the customer service people are a different set of people. So if you can get everything fixed on your home before you move in by the builder, they're going to put a lot more attention on it than 2 weeks after you move in. If you find something, sure, they're going to fix it, but you're going to go into a whole nother queue. You're going to be in the customer service queue now. And it's a whole different people that have never even been inside your house. I always say it's better to have the original electricians. We find a bad GFCI outlet, let's say, on an inspection prior to close. They'll call an electrician from across the street to come over and fix it right now.
I like that.
They may replace that outlet before we leave. I've seen them do this.
Oh, that's good.
It's amazing. I mean, the service is instant because they have a lot riding on this. I don't know what you call it, a closing date or, they have a target to make. They're supposed to turn the keys over in 2 days. Well, if you find a bunch of stuff wrong with the house, they have to bring in the crews and get that thing's worked on all night long to get it ready so they can sign off. So I always say, get a brand new home inspected for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree because it's stressful when you're moving and then to try to organize repair people to come in and you're still unpacking boxes or it can be hectic. And
that's true.
Yeah, for sure. So I know that it's important to get a home inspection 100%. Like I always recommend them to my clients on new and resale. And now I'm gonna, like the bigger homes, I'll have the seller start doing the pre-listing inspection. I like how you shared that and that you offer that to us here in Las Vegas. What is the reason that you got into doing home inspections?
Well, prior to this business, I had a foreclosure services business. So the only game in town was vacant houses. So in 2007, the end of 2007, beginning of 2008, I had a lot of rental units. I had a lot of real estate holdings. Everything was, not doing well. I had some other businesses that were not doing well. And so I'm like, well, what am I going to do? Well, I decided that it was the time of my life where I needed to start cleaning toilets.
Mm.
So me and another fellow started this company where the Fannie Mae houses and the HUD houses needed people to make them safe, clean, and secure before turning them over to a listing agent. And so we had a business set up here in town that did just that. And so we grew that business. Eventually, I was not, of course, out cleaning toilets anymore. I had crews. We had 10 different crews. We did this in 6 different states. And we did, just in Nevada alone, we did over 6,000 Fannie Mae houses and HUD houses. And so basically you go in, you board them up, you make them secure, you clean up any broken glass, you throw away anything that was left in the house. And you guys probably remember what they looked like back then.
Oh my God,
And
yes.
so we'd make them presentable and clean them. And then we would send a maid crew there once a week, and then a lawn guy to come clean up the lawn and get the dead leaves out and things like that, so that it would maintain that fresh look. And remember the little air fresheners that were everywhere? We had storerooms full of these air fresheners. So we were doing this, a couple of hundred houses of this every month. And then I saw it peak, like 2009 or 10, I think it was 10, it kind of peaked. And I said, well, I'm going to, I had a janitorial license. I had a handyman license. I had what back then they called a asset manager license.
Oh yeah.
I had license number 31. I mean, I was one of the first guys doing this. And I had like 5 licenses. And I said, I'm going to get a home inspector's license. Just for me, it was just like one more thing I'm going to add on to my list of credentials. So I went to school, and I think I did 1 or 2 inspections the first month. And then I did 6 or 8 the next month. And then the stats for home inspections were just going like this. And then the stats for the houses were doing this. And then I just saw the writing on the wall. I'm like, we're going to run out of foreclosed houses. So I'm going to make this just a home inspection company. And I just changed my company into a home inspection company. And I sold off the other thing to another person who wanted it. And that's the story. So we started off just doing that. I did 5,000 or 6,000 of these Fannie Mae and HUD inspections for the banks. So it was a great way to learn, taking all the photos, documenting the condition of the house, and then having a bunch of people come and fix it up. And so I said, okay, well, I'm ready for the public now. So that was a good training ground for me.
Good. I like that. Is that how you call it, bridge home inspections, because you bridged from one business to another? Or how did
Sure. You know what? My actual legal name is Inspections Las Vegas LLC. Pretty boring. And nobody could remember it. We had people who used us 5, 6, 7, 8 times and still didn't know the name. They just knew Larry the home inspector. Right? And so I had to come up with something, and I just made this little logo of a bridge to a house and said, okay, well, that's it. The other company had a different name altogether. And this was just to give a physical object that somebody could think of, a house, a bridge to a house. Okay, great.
Love it.
Not very philosophical, but it worked. And people started remembering bridge home inspections after that.
Good. Well, I thank you for coming on here with me today, and I learned a lot from you, and I'm sure what you talked about is going to help everybody out in the public, and I will definitely see you on the next home inspection, or one of your guys, actually.
Great.
Thanks,
All right.
Larry.
Well, it's been great having you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.